Well, that's a warm welcome to another edition of the Open Governance Initiative, the OGI. We are coming to you from the Gambia Radio and Television Services. My name is Fatu Elika Muloshi, the presenter of this show. Today we're looking at the Ministry of the Interior, and just to remind you that we're streaming live on our Facebook page at GRTS TV, on YouTube at GRTS TV. We are also online across all social media platforms, on Instagram as well as Twitter. Do follow our social media pages to catch up on what we're doing here, specifically on who we're expecting in our subsequent guests on the OGI right here on GRTS. As usual, we take stock of development strides, but also making sure that they're in line with the National Development Plan 2018-2021. Today, we have the Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of the Interior here, Mr. Hassan Tangara, and with him here are officials from the various departments that this same ministry works with. We'll be looking at the police with the Deputy IGP, the Deputy Inspector General of Police, Momodu Sow. Also here is the Director General at the Drug Law Enforcement Agency, Mr. Bakari Gassama. Also present is the Director General of the Immigration Department, CDM Ture, as well as other services, including the fire service as well and the prisons. With that, we'll go on a short break. When we come back, the Permanent Secretary is already seated with the Deputy IGP, Mr. Momodu Sow, there at the Gambia Police. We'll expand this conversation right after this short break. Welcome back to the OGI. We're coming to you from the Gambia Radio and Television Services. My name is Fatu Elika Muloshi, and like I said in the beginning, today we're looking at the Ministry of the Interior, and the Permanent Secretary, Mr. Hassan Tangara, is already here and seated together with the Deputy IGP, Momodu Sow. PS, you're welcome to OGI.
Thank you. Welcome, Fatu Muloshi.
Very well. Deputy IGP, we're happy to have you here.
It's a pleasure.
Very well. Piers, let me of course start off you to talk to us about how the upholding of just human rights and justice coming along.
Well, there is a compliance on human rights and justice post-2016. There is an Office of Human Rights already set up at the level of the police, and the bail conditions have been adhered to. Nobody is detained for more than 72 hours. Yes.
Good.
Yes.
I mean, that's something you're proud of, and I'm
we
sure
are
the
proud
police
of. We
is
are
also
proud
proud
of. Yes,
that.
we are proud of. Yes, we are proud of that.
Does that mean in the previous years we're experiencing cases where people are actually detained for more than 72 hours without being told their crime?
Well, as I already said, there's compliance on human rights. People are told their crime. They are sometimes brought before a court of law and charged. If there's a need for the investigation, they will investigate. But the Deputy IG would elaborate more on that.
Before we come to him, talk to us about how you've been working with your line department since 2016 to date. How's that coming along?
It's been cordial because the ministry is have that oversight responsibility. With all the line departments, we have that oversight responsibility and, to maintain law and order. The working is cordial, and there's no issue. So it's really cordial. Hence, we have the responsibility to maintain law and order through our line departments. So the working relationship is cordial. The service chiefs, when the need comes, we will call them to have some meetings with them. So the working relationship is cordial. We don't have any problem with our line departments.
All right.
Yeah, so far, so good.
You are responsible, like you said, for overseeing these departments, the Immigration Department, Police Force, the Prison Service, the Fire Service. Tell us, how arduous is this task? Would you say it is?
It's not. It's not. It's not. It's not.
It's not a difficult task to oversee all these very strong departments.
It's not a difficult task. We don't deal with day-to-day administration of the police, the fire service, the Department of Immigration. Us, we purely deal with policy. The day-to-day operations rest squarely on the service
prisons
chiefs. The prisons rest squarely on the respective institutions. So it's not an odious task.
What do you do then You just write the policies, direct them, and just leave them to do what they want at their own level?
No, there's a checks and balance here. That's why we set up a monitoring committee. We just don't allow them, or we just don't say that it's a day-to-day. Yeah, it's day-to-day administration. It's rest squarely on the respective institution. But those doesn't mean that we don't follow what the institutions are doing. Because, mind you, at the end of the day, it's the Honorable Minister who appears before the National Assembly, who answers whether there is action or inaction within the respective services. So we just don't, in as much as, yes, they have the leeway to at least run their institution on a day-to-day, but we just don't leave them. There's a checks and balance.
Now, let me just shift to you, Deputy IGP. PS mentioned a point in the beginning that you know, everything is going smoothly now. You're upholding human rights and nobody gets detained beyond 72 hours without being told the crime or taken to the courts. Is that what's happening at this moment?
Thank you very much. I'll get straight to that point. You have to put into recognition that the police is a law enforcement entity. It is supposed to uphold the law, not to break it. And as far as democratic policing is concerned, we ensure that what is in the laws is being applied. So that's very simple. That's why we created a Human Rights Office. And we had a professional standard office as well in line with, got together with the Human Rights Offices. And all these two offices ensure that they look at the checks and balances of where the law is flouted. And like what he was alluding to, you asked a question of how is they are very much comfortable in dealing with all these institutions. Do not forget about this, that all those institutions has their various acts that are regulated, and they are embedded in our national laws as act, and each of them operates according to those laws, and they are enshrined into the laws of the Gambia. So there's not a problem. All those institutions within the Department of, within the
Ministry of Interior.
The Ministry of Interior are regulated by law.
What is your own act, and how have your people really been doing their job just in accordance to that act?
The Police Act, I don't want to mention, but to... You don't want to mention what, the act? Physically, it requires to sort of be redefined in order to meet the current existing climate on the ground, because it has been enacted sometimes very long years ago. So, and that's...
So it's absolute?
It's not absolute, of course, yeah?
So what's the problem? What needs to change in there, really? And how is that making the work even more difficult?
That's why we are working with the United Nations, with DCAF, to ensure it is already drafted. Okay. All right, to review that police act, because it's very old. You can remember that police is the oldest institution in this country. The police was established way back in 1818, when there were no institutions in this country, and some of the rules that applies in the Police Act are very much old.
So what would you want to see change if there needs to be any change?
A lot of the clause in the Police Act needs to be looked at and then be repealed so that they are curtailed to meet the current status of society.
Do you have any specific clauses you're referring to here? Just few, so we know the nature?
Vis-a-vis the condition of service of the police, all right, the way the police operates in a democratic society, most of the tools that they are required to operate with, because society is changing and the police is not changing, so these are evident, and it requires some redoing.
Yes, how are you overseeing that process here?
Well, we work with them, and as he rightly pointed out, the DCAF is working on that area to help them. So that one we are comfortable with what they are doing with the DCAF. So we are really comfortable.
Has it been going on a very fast pace?
Well, it's going as we expect it to go.
You're nodding to that. Yes. Is it going as so?
It's right on track.
Okay. Very well. Let me still come to you, Deputy IGP, because access to justice is important, and the police really play an integral part in especially investigations. I mean, that is a primary role. Would you say that you have been doing that to the best of your ability without compromise?
Well, if you give us that compliment, we will rarely accept it.
It's not a compliment, it's a question.
It's not a question, it's a compliment.
And would you say so?
Yeah, it's, investigations are challenging, particularly in the current environment that the police operate, like I said at the beginning. Vis-a-vis, if you look at the police, when it comes to tools in uncovering certain crimes, it is really a challenge. But like you said, we are doing a very tremendous job, and we are doing a very good deal of, we are feeling a very wonderful achievement in that. And having it recognized that our only role is to prove issues or cases beyond reasonable doubt. When it comes to justice, we are not the judge, the jury, or the executive. We are only the mitigating aspect here. So we stop at prosecution. And that's why our end is. What is going to come next, like I said, what is supposed, of course, is to ensure that we prove those matters beyond reasonable doubt.
You mentioned that, you know, the issue of tools and just getting the right equipment to do your job. What would you say to the notion that some, you know, police have been, of course, blamed for not investigating matters to the latter, and that leads to the dying of certain matters in court? Is the lack of tools something that you would attach to that, or is this in fact not the case?
Well, tools, yes, is one of the factors. Sometimes the laws also is another factor. We have to put into cognition that we have laws that are enacted since 1945, and we're still enforcing those laws. So when you look at the present crimes that are being committed in society, they are way far more sophisticated than the current laws that we are operating within.
Just like
So
what kind of crimes are beyond your investigation, really, if there are any?
Now, if you go to financial crimes and cyber crimes per se, right, these are issues that are really challenging. And forensics.
And those are crimes that you are recording at this point in time in this country?
Absolutely. All type of crimes that are happening in this country.
So when such matters arise, the police does not have the capacity to investigate these matters. Is that what you're saying?
Like I said, there are two options here. We either prove the matters beyond shadow of doubts, or we prove it beyond reasonable doubts.
But even other crimes, the common ones that we see, from abuse, you know, such cases sometimes, would you say the same for those matters?
When you talk about abuse, specifically, what are you talking about here?
I mean, we talk about abuse, talk about rape, for example. When you talk about violence, physical violence, economic exploitation, issues that women especially are reporting to the police.
Now you're coming back.
No, that is why I'm here, to guide the conversation.
Yeah,
so yes.
When you talk about rape, it's easy to prove, easy to allege, but very difficult to prove. And this is where you require tools now. This is exactly where you require tools. This is where the forensic thing comes into play. Now, when you talk about financial issues now, where there are frauds, this is where tools comes into play. So if those tools are lacking now, there's an issue. What with the new policy, what is being taken up now, as far as we are concerned, gradually we are coming to edge on that, and we are coming to past that stage, because whilst your presentation unfolds, you will come to realize how much we have advanced in terms of technology as far as the police is concerned, and they're going to cover those areas.
Yes, P.S., let me just come back to you. You've heard that he mentioned the lack of tools and just the required equipment to just go about their investigations. This is something that the ministry is aware of, and just how you are taking up this issue.
Really, yes, we are. And as we all knew, resources are difficult to come by. And, but we are doing our utmost best to at least engage our partners in one aspect, or also central government to provide the necessary tools.
But then what does that say about just the police going about protecting the lives and properties and just making sure that they prove beyond reasonable doubt the reasons why a certain crime was committed?
They are doing their utmost best with the tools they have, and they have been successful. without any shadow of doubt. The tools, as we rightly pointed out, or as rightly pointed out, are the resources to get the tools. But they are doing their utmost best.
Would you say so?
Yes, they are.
Why?
Why?
How?
Because investigations, some of them are successful in their investigation. And you mentioned a particular crime, which is, as he already answered, is difficult to at least prove where that crime is committed. I don't want to go to that, name that particular crime. But with the right tools, the right training and all those things, they can be able to at least to investigate that particular crime.
Now, let's go to road safety here. Tell us, who is responsible for that? Yes, you.
Road safety, we can...
Would you say the police is responsible for road safety?
I wouldn't say responsible. And,
okay.
Police are there, okay, to make sure that, there's sanity on our roads. They are there. That's where the police, the role and responsibility of the police, the traffic police. Obviously,
so when you say there's sanity on the road, what exactly are you referring to?
To make sure drivers drive according to the code or to the laws that is prescribed to the traffic laws. Good drivers to drive as expected on our roads.
Deputy IGP, that police, this is not your responsibility, the road safety. That is what PS is putting across.
No, I'm not saying it's not their responsibility. I'm saying they cannot be wholly responsible.
They cannot take sole responsibility for that.
Because there's an issue that is road safety is beyond policing the roads. You need to talk about the condition of the roads.
We'll come to that.
The condition of the vehicles. And etc. and etc.
Deputy IGP. So, before we go on a break, just this last one, before the police goes, because they're very crucial in this. Would you say that the security sector is gaining the security sector reform is gaining much impact in the operation of the police, from human resource, restructuring, equipment, and execution?
What he mentioned here is from visibility to technology. And that's what we talk about reforms. You don't use your manpower, that is human resources, to do your work. You are using technology to ease your operations. And that's part of reforms.
You're happy about that?
I'm always happy. When there's development, there are innovations, yes.
With that, that is the police, the police sector. We're looking at the police force, and we have the Deputy IGP Mamadou Sow here with us, and he was just talking to us about what they're doing at the level of the police here. Deputy IGP, it's been great having you here, but before you go, we have just two quick questions that we have on social media, and they're directly to the police, so I'll just ask that before you go. This person is asking on Twitter, who ordered the deployment of the PIU at KMC on Monday? Deputy IGP.
Very simple. As far as I know, the Gambia police has a territorial responsibility. So there are no boundaries where they should and they should not go. So it's not very much important who deploy where and who deploy what. What is important is there is always what is known as intelligence-led policing. When you collect intelligence and there are potential threats, what you do is to surface. In any policing, prevention is always better than being inactive. So it's not necessarily here to say who ordered and who not ordered. The fact remains is the police force works on the instructions.
Okay, you work on the instructions. We'll just leave it at that. That was the Deputy IGP Mamadou Sow. He was just talking to us about how they're operating lately in that particular department there, the police. But with that, we'll take another quick break, because right on next we're going to be looking at the Drug Law Enforcement Agency, and the Director General of that particular agency will join us in a jiffy. All right, still here on the OGI is the Ministry of the Interior, and we have with us still the Permanent Secretary of the Ministry. And at this juncture now, we're looking at the Drug Law Enforcement Agency, DILIG, and the Director General, Mr. Bakari Gassama, is here with us to help us look at the issues here. DJ, you're welcome to the OGI.
Thank you very much.
Let's talk about drug here, and when we do so, what is the usage of drugs here in the country? How would you classify them?
As far as Gambia is concerned, as far as my institution is concerned, it's illegal to whatever extent.
So I am interested in that. What makes it illegal?
The law makes it illegal. The Drug Control Act is very clear when it comes to possession or trafficking issue on cannabis or any other prohibited or controlled drugs. The provisions there are very clear. The abuse trend in the Gambia as we speak now is growing among the youths. And as a result of so many other factors, you know, or so many factors that may be the cause why most youths are into drug abuse.
Because I asked what made it illegal, because some use it as a coping mechanism. So then what makes drugs?
What coping? I don't understand. Why would you use something that is illegal to cope?
This is why I ask, what makes it illegal?
Yeah, the law makes it very illegal. Like, for example, hard drugs like cocaine or heroin. You know, the negative consequences of when you consume those drugs, the impact it costs on you as an individual, health-wise, is very, very severe. So obviously, governments or countries cannot sit and allow their citizens to abuse those drugs. At the end of the day, the burden comes back to the government. And in fact, it starts from the home. If somebody comes into conflict with the drug, on drug matters, first, who took the trouble? The family. The bailing issue, going up and down, going to court. When you are remanded every day, they have to visit you at the prisons. That's a burden. You create a burden on the family. Now, if you are incarcerated in prisons, the government comes in. The taxpayers' money have to be spent on you to be feeding you on a daily basis. If you are sick, you have to be taken care of. Every day, you will be moved from prisons to hospital. This is a burden. So no country would want to encourage your citizens to abuse drugs. You know, that will impact, you know, negatively back on the whole society.
Very well. So how do you handle the smuggling of drugs? To be specific here, cannabis, which of course we see as the most frequent one here. How do you go about handling these cases?
You know, our mandate is very clear. We have been mandated to enforce all drug laws and regulations in this country, and to also initiate and enforce and support non-enforcement mechanisms. We create and support non-enforcement mechanisms to ensure that we reduce the availability of drugs, both prohibited and controlled drugs. In doing so, our mandate is in two folds. One, supply suppression. Supply suppression, that is where we go after those who abuse. We go after those who traffic in drugs by arresting them, investigating them, and prosecuting them. So that's one aspect of our mandate.
You've been prosecuting them?
Of
the
course,
perpetrators?
Perpetrators are being prosecuted on a daily basis.
What is the worst? What's the worst form of prosecution here you've registered so far?
You know, trafficking is the most highest crime when it comes to drug.
Okay.
Trafficking. Within the trafficking also you have aggravated trafficking, you know, where you can even get a life sentence.
Someone can get a life sentence out of trafficking drugs?
Of course. It used to be that, but it has been amended.
That's not the case now? It's
not the case
Why?
now.
What happened? What changed?
No, but we want to match with international best standards.
You know, so people are abolishing death penalty.
Coming to that, PS, in terms of course, working towards adhering to international best standards, tell us what are you doing in just making sure that abusers of these drugs are pretty much rehabilitated and just put in situations where they don't have to go to these crimes?
The league is working towards that. They are working with partners. That's why the reform is going to address that one. Instead of incarceration, there could be some service that the offenders will be doing. It could be community service, but those are things that we are discussing where there is an option instead of sentencing. And we need to at least follow the international best practices. And mind you also, most of the kids are Gambian youths, and we need those guys at least for this for national development. You cannot be incarcerating all of our youths. And so you need to rehabilitate them, train them, and make sure that they are not repeated offenders. So we have to follow international best practice. In addition to that, they are Gambians also, they are the youth. So they are coming with the programs and activities, and he would enlighten on those things. School programs and all those things, talking to schools, radio programs, they are coming in, they are doing all that.
Director, how far have you gone in that?
As far as your question is concerned, and as PS rightly said, we have currently overhauled the Drug Control Act.
Okay.
This Drug Control Act have gone over several amendments. The last amendment was in 2014. That brought about name change of the agency from NDEA to DILIC.
What was NDEA?
National Drug Enforcement Agency. What brought about the name change? Because we are not enforcing the drugs. We are enforcing the law. So that means there was an oversight in, on the name of the institution. This is why we changed it from NDA to drug law enforcement, because we are enforcing the law. Now, among our reform programs, one key factor is about the overhaul of the Drug Control Act, which is at an advanced stage. It's at the final stage of drafting. As you rightly said, we are very much concerned about the punishment aspect of provisions contained in the Drug Control Act, which were very severe. We did an amendment in 2014, and we were able to scale down the fines imposed on first-time offenders, more especially on possession. We did this because we want to avoid sending young people to jail. It is not our like to be sending our own brothers and sisters to jail. Never.
And would you categorize this as small crimes sometimes?
Yeah, we have what we call possession. Anything less than 2 kilos is possession.
Is possession.
Whether 0.1 gram or 1 kilo, some grams is possession. It's general. But we've scaled the fines that is imposed. It used to be $250,000. No matter how the quantity is, as far as it falls under possession, you will pay that.
Now how much are they?
Now we scale it into 3 categories.
Okay.
From 0.1 to 100, we put a fine, and a sentencing on that particular one. From 150 also, 100 to 150, we also scale that one. And from 150 to a certain quantity, we scale those ones one too.
Does it in any way encourage the young people, and just how you're going about the rehabilitation issue I was just talking to PS about? Is this something you're very much keen on as well? How are you just being involved in the entire agenda?
We are very much key, and we are really working closely with our partners. Now the first step is we overhaul the act, put in correct sentencing guidelines that has to do with a lot of alternative measures. Like as we speak now, what we've created in the act, if it is endorsed by the National Assembly, we want to bring in an option of community servicing. Like small quantity, certain quantity you are finding, instead of being taken to court or fined or sentenced to jail, you will be subjected to community servicing. There also we'll draw a roadmap as to how we go about that. Then we'll be partnering with municipalities, governors, area councils to see how do we actualize this community servicing.
So since you reduced the fines, have you seen any change in behavior of those people who are found in conflict with the law?
It fluctuates. you know, the drug issue abuse trend, it fluctuates. You cannot say there's a specific trend, you know, that exists. You know, you will see there will be an downward trend, and someday you'll see an upward trend. It depends. But since the advent of the COVID pandemic, you know, the upward trend of abuse, the abuse of the drug has increased a bit.
Oh.
As several factors, you know, maybe several reasons may be contributing factors.
And have your patrols been very much efficient in just detecting that?
Of course, we are patrolling.
How are you doing that? How
we
is
are
it going?
patrolling as an institution, and jointly also we are patrolling, you know, as a security and fraternity in the Gambia, both armed and security services. We have initiated this zero crime that the police initiated, and we are all supporting that cause. We are patrolling 24/7. All our personnel are working together 24/7.
Yes. Yes, that's interesting, DG. And just if there was something to just change and make their work at the Drug Law Enforcement Agency even more efficient and robust, what would that be at this point?
Resources. They need more resources.
What exactly in resources?
In terms of logistics, they need that. When I talk of logistics, it's a whole gamut of things they would need to at least to make this, the agency more effective or efficient. I'm not saying they are not effective or efficient. They are doing their work.
They need more of that.
They need more
and what are you
resources.
doing at this point to that effect?
Normally we are engaging partners on also central government. Normally, no, there's always a budget cycle and all those things. We are engaging partners and also central government, as I already said.
Okay. I mean, DG, before I let you go, this is a very sensitive matter here, and I'm sure a lot of young people are watching as well. What would you say to them?
We need attitude change of attitude as far as youths are concerned. I think they need to make a better choice. Stay away from drugs. Look for a better, you know, opportunity where you could better your life. For example, if you are going to school, concentrate on your schooling. If you are into business, concentrate on your business. If you are into any other, you know, technical skill training also, you better concentrate on them, because that would help you to better your life tomorrow.
And during your engagement with these young people who are usually culprits, what do you realize to be the major cause of which they abuse these drugs?
Some of them peer influence is a factor. Most of them are victims of circumstance. For example, some notorious dealers want to traffic. We have instances where we arrest teenagers, you know, taking all the drugs from Fonyi somewhere in Fonyi and coming to Combo. They were apprehended on the way. Not once, not twice, not three times.
And they go to
There
juvie?
was an instance where somebody was arrested, juvenile, and he was sent by a father to go and buy. So those are victims of circumstance. So people want to use them because of their age, thinking that if they come across, you know, with law enforcement, maybe they will not have suspicion on them. For us, we don't leave any stone unturned. As far as drug matters are concerned, we conduct search thoroughly wherever we are stationed on duty or whatsoever. On the abuse trend or on the reform side of it, we are working with our partners, as he rightly said, which of course government is key very well, and the ministry in particular. Of recent, you've had, you know, when the supplementary appropriation bill was put before the National Assembly, you know, a lot of comments came on social media on drug. There was this 45 million for my institution. Those are all supports that the ministry, you know, have to, you know, stand by the institution to ensure that government provide the right funding, so that we'll be able to execute our mandate, you know, to the best of our ability, you know, as dictated by the DCA, which is the Drug Control Act.
Very well.
So a lot of reform processes are going on. We're working with ECOWAS Drug Unit, you know, to establish a treatment and care center, you know, so which is at an advanced stage. Once that is done, those who are addicts will be confined to that particular facility.
Okay.
And they will go through a treatment and care. Again, There isn't much time, but I think we need to talk a lot about drug for the general public
Briefly.
to understand,
Yes.
the standpoint of the institution, the ministry, and government in general.
I'm sure we'll do that another time, Director General, as I've run completely out of time. But it's been interesting, and I'm sure the young people have heard what you had to say about that as well. That was the Director General from the Drug Law Enforcement Agency, Mr. Bakari Gassama. Many thanks once again. And at this juncture, would invite the prison service to take a look at what exactly they're doing at that department. All right, so at this moment we have the Deputy Director General Modu Jaju. He is the Deputy Director at the Gambia Prison Service. Mr. Jaju, you're welcome to OGI.
Thank you, sir. Thank you much.
Yes, even before I come to the Deputy Director there, just tell us how the prison reform is actually coming along.
Well, post 2006, there were some reforms in terms of structure and even the act. Maybe elaborate on that one. I mean, if you may observe, maybe you never visited the prison before, but post 2006, then there were some lot of changes. More, I don't want to at least steal the show from Modu. In the act, as we speak now, it's been validated. The act's been validated. That would at least bring a whole lot of changes within the prison system. The infrastructure also is being revamped. There's a lot of changes within the prison service. Both the three prisons, Josuang, Mile 2, and Janjambure. There's a lot of changes.
Very much going effectively.
Effectively.
All right, we'll delve into that because Deputy Director here, I want you to talk to us about, effort in transforming the prisons into correctional centers and just making sure they meet the UN minimum standards. What has been done so far in that regard?
Thank you so much, Fatu. Just as the PS stated, the Gambia Prison Services, since 2017 or before, they have been undergoing reformation of inmates because, as you know, we have two components. We have both the officers and the inmates, but the focus is always on the inmates. And the reformation, like the PS stated, we started with the Act. This Prison Act was established years back, when even that in time we were not even born.
Yeah.
So you can see that it is sort of outdated. So that's why we came up and then reviewed the Act, and as he stated, is already validated. So in the side of the inmates, like the rehabilitation, we have a training center right now in Mile 2, in which 195 inmates were graduated on various skills.
Okay.
Yes. So in terms of the infrastructure, you can see when you visited in 2009, the prisons, the kitchen is now been refurbished, and then these modern cooking pots are there, and very soon they will finish installing, because there are certain materials that are lacking, in which we want to make sure that we put them there.
Okay.
So to change the condition of the kitchen, and as well, reformation is a process. Mile 2 is the first phase. So for Joswang and Janjambure also will come. We will follow suit when we are done with Mile 2.
So you cannot do them all at the same time. You have to do it step by step.
We have to.
Maybe you could do it all at the same time. Maybe PS has something to say on that. But yes, come on. Yeah.
But what I'm talking about is in terms of the resources, because for now we have to make sure that we according to the resources that we have to make sure that we do it phase by phase. So that's why we started with Mile 2, and very soon we will finish that one, and then the rest of the other stations will follow suit.
Yes, is it because then the prisons are not really like a priority here, because we could have all of this going at the same time?
Prison is, I can say, #1 priority. The reforms, the infrastructure development is going on in all the prisons. And, the Janjambure, as we speak now, there's a fencing going in Janjambure.
I'm aware of that.
You're aware of that? And you are aware of the 4 blocks that was at least completed in Joshua. Are you aware of that?
Juvie, yes, I've been
Yes.
there.
So we are doing it simultaneously. So it's not that we are focusing only in mile 2. And Janjambure, it was the ministry's resources, our own resources, that was used to at least erect a boundary fence at Janjambure, our own resources, military resources. And they're going simultaneously.
And we intentionally brought prisons here because we had the police, we had a drug law enforcement agency. Absolutely. And what happens when culprits are found or people just come into conflict with the law, they end up in the prisons after going through the necessary, legal processes. But then you look at this place and it's a prison. Now the idea is to convert them into correctional centers. Your officials, are they in fact aware of the Mandela rules and just how it's important to uphold human rights values in these correctional centers? Would you say the prison at this moment is seen as a correctional center, our prisons in the country?
Yes, I can say we are working towards that because we have already started. We have already a training center, which is we are using our own staff there and plus inside training center to make sure that all the inmates that are there, especially the ones that we feel that they can have this basic education or their own necessary skills, are trained. They are trained, as I stated here earlier, that 195 inmates were trained on various skills like tailoring, IT, plumbing, this electrical installation.
And you believe that's enough for their reintegration into society? These skills, these skill areas?
Reformation is a process. The skills that they have, those who graduated now, even most of them who were discharged, we haven't even seen any one of them coming back to prison, and that's our motive anyway.
Interesting. Yes. Before I let go of the Deputy Director there, I mean, it's important, and we're aware of the constructions going across these areas. You mentioned the kitchen. Let's talk about the human resources, the prison personnel, your guards, and just the situation and the condition of the prisons, themselves. How is that process coming along?
Well, some of they have been trained.
Even the toilets.
Are you talking about the human resources?
I'm talking about all of this incorporated.
Yes, as Modu has already highlighted, the resources are not that many because we all have to share from one basket.
Is it about priorities then?
Prison is a priority. I can honestly tell you, prison is a priority. As we speak, there are some resources available at least to do something in Janjambure. I mean, the training is going on, both prisoners and inmates. Modu has already highlighted that one. Inside training and others, and people are just partners are coming for us to engage, signed MOU with prison, for that they would at least partner with them, train our officers and inmates. Because as Modu already has said, the focus has always been the inmates, which is definitely right and proper. But now also the prisoners also, the prison officers or not need to be trained also. I mean, these are the things that we are doing. But prison, I can tell you, is a priority, and not only for Ministry of Interior, it's a priority for the current government.
I know that the UNDP especially is very much supportive in the entire reform agenda. Tell us, how is that cooperation with your different partners coming along before we let you go?
The cooperation is still ongoing and it's cordial. As you can see, even the two cell halls that we accommodating remands, they have been completed by the UNDP, and right now they are also constructing a clinic at Old Joshua. And it's almost on finishing. So
a clinic?
Yes, a clinic in Old Joshua, and even in Janjambure they are also coming to help us build another clinic, or even the kitchen in Janjambure.
When will this finish?
Inshallah, the BOQ is already done. The Ministry of Works, yes, has already submitted the BOQ, and very soon, maybe in 2 or 3 weeks' time, we'll be able to kickstart.
At the level of the prison service, what do you hope for the coming years?
Improvement, yes, but there's something I want to say here also.
Go ahead.
Which is very important for the general public. This morning, we received a donation from an ex-prisoner, yes, who feel that he have to share with the inmates whatever he get from outside. And then the motive, or even what made me overwhelmed about his contribution is that that prisoner was going and coming 19 times into the prison.
19.
19 times. So what after his discharge, the last discharge, he was supported by a foundation called Eco Care. He was supported by that because he saw them the potential that he have to be an artist. Yeah, so they welcome him and then embrace him. They supported him until now. He's an artist, and then at least he's well off, and we don't think that there's any moment that condition that we pressurize him to come back to prison.
So that's an example of what can happen.
That's what I'm saying.
When they're giving the skills
that is what I'm
and
saying.
support.
That is what I'm saying. That's why it's very important for the general public to understand.
Okay.
But the biggest challenge that we have is that prisoners going and coming.
The recidivism.
At least if you can have skills in the prisons, and then you go, your family has to make sure that they welcome you, so that you cannot even think about going back to prison. But on most instances that we have, the cases that we normally hear, or even we have with inmates that normally return, is that when they go to the society, the way they see them is always a problem. So at the end of the day, the only option is to create crime again and go back to prison, because for us, we have to welcome you.
And that's not the option.
And that's not the option.
Okay.
So my advice is that whenever a prisoner is being discharged from prisons, the community has to welcome, especially the family members, and even NGOs also, or foundations, other foundations. They can come up, and liaise with the prisons. Say, okay, now how many people are going to be discharged this time around? Okay, we can do this for them. We can do this for them. Already, some they will come to prison even without any skill. What you can see is some before they go out, they will have skills, like maybe electricity, plumbing, installation, yes. So you can see if they go out, if they are welcomed by the people, they can at least support them, that they will not come back to prison.
That's important. I think it's a very interesting conversation, this issue of the prisons, but we'll have to cut it short here, Deputy Director General, and hopefully continue this conversation some other time. Many thanks for joining us here on the OGI. And at this point, we're just going to close with the Immigration Department, and the Director General of the department is already here and seated for us. The Director General of the Immigration Department, Mr. Sidi M. Toure, is already here with us. DJ, you're welcome to the OGI.
Thank you.
Let's talk about the co-mandate of the Immigration Department. What do you do there?
Our primary function actually is security. Then the secondary one has to do with revenue generation for the central government, and then as well as issuance of national documents, and also documents to other nationals that are resident in the country. But if you go by the Constitution of the Gambia, the mandate of the Gambia Immigration is control the movement of people in and outside the country and matters connected thereat.
How do you go about generating income for government?
One, it has to do on the documents that we are issuing. Here you're talking of our national passport, both the biometric and the MRP, that's the machine-readable passport. You talk of residence and work permit that is given, to non-Gambians. You talk of, non-Gambian identity cards, and then as well as visas, extensions, and it goes on like that.
Yes, how do you see this new method of the Immigration Department and just how they go about issuing the national documents?
It's not something new. Maybe just it has to do with innovation. Maybe the ID card that we have now is the biometric.
The biometric.
The passport, biometric, as you rightly pointed, and machine readable. These are not things that is new. I mean, they have been doing it. What changes now is technology. If you can agree with me that the ID card that used to be issued was not biometric. But now it's biometric. The passport he mentioned is two, machine readable and biometric, and these are the things. So nothing has changed. Nothing has changed. It's just like they have strengthened it. I mean, it's just innovation. They have improved, sophisticated, That's the change. That's the changes now.
Sophistication.
More training.
Yeah.
He will come to that. They are more trained. Now, immigration of yesterday is quite different with an immigration of here now. Maybe I don't want to get into the nitty-gritty.
What did you say? You said immigration yesterday.
Of yesterday is different now.
What is different?
They are highly educated. They are trained, they are professional. And that's the difference now.
So before they were not highly educated?
I wouldn't say they are not highly educated, but the level of education now, at the level of immigration now, and is real exemplary.
What's responsible that is the ministry just making sure they get the required support or just scholarships to go and train or what?
Yes.
You're doing that?
At that level, they are doing it with the support of the ministry. Yes, as I think I pointed it out when we started earlier on. Day-to-day operations lies on the service chiefs. He is the one who should at least scout the potential immigration officer, those who need to be trained or those who are trainable, and recommend them for training.
He said sophistication now in the service, technology, he said. We're looking at the method still. This new method of would you say still is new, the interrogation or the extensive interrogation of people just before they get, this is the new biometric national identity card, the ID card here. If the camera operator can just go into that. I believe that a lot of Gambians know this by now. That's okay, right? Tell us, how is that method? Is this the standard in just every other country?
Yeah, this is is international acceptable standards. You know, national documents are meant for legitimate citizens of the country. And we are also guided by the criteria and the rules and regulations that are spelled out in the Gambian Immigration Act that governs the issuance of our national documents. And then there is also this caveat that even after production of all these documents to prove your citizenship, the onus still lies on the approving officer by way of, giving him good answers, to the profiling questions he is asking you.
Well, what could be good answers here?
Okay, for example, if you are somebody, who claim to come from my native hometown of Pirang, for example, and then you don't even know, the name of the alcalde of Pirang, and then you are above 50 years of age.
I could come from, say, Nyomi, and I was born here in the Combos, and I've never even visited Nyomi. So I should know the alcalde of Nyomi? Okay, but then it will also base the imagination. Combo here where you are resident, you don't even know the Lord Mayor or the alcalde, or the councillor of the area. I may know the Lord Mayor because it's everyone, it's obvious, and I am a 21st century person, and I have my internet, and these things are easy to know. Yes, it's easy to know, but you cannot preempt what questions, the interviewing officer is going to ask you. Okay, so that it may cut across. Yes, it's cross-cutting. Does that explain why certain ethnic groups feel that they say they've been discriminated because once they go to the immigration service, they make it increasingly difficult for them? This is across the board. It's all ethnicities. It's all of them. I receive complaints from all the ethnic groups that they have been denied, they have been marginalized, but then we'll ask them, give us proofs. And if proofs are provided, sometimes myself, I pick my phone and call. Way up to Basse. So person is denied or is being referred, give him, he's genuine. He's a genuine Gambian. And then that action is taken all the time. Has that materialized into any effective kind of development we're seeing recently in the immigration, from the immigration side? Of course. How? As we speak now, this ID card scheme was rolled out on the 1st of October 2018. But from that 1st October, 1 October to date, 30th of June, we have issued close to 500,000 cards to Gambians. And then this is not only because we are in an electoral year, Gambians are also coming out to get the document. Because this ID card that we are seeing is a ECOWAS recognized ID card. When we finish, discussions with the company back and forth, we have to send samples to ECOWAS for them to validate the ID. Let's talk about the issue of dealing with smuggling migrants as well. Just how you often intercept international or transnational border crimes. How do you take this on as well with some of your sister agencies? We are working hand in glove. There is always this synergy information sharing, more especially with the state intelligence services.
Whatever information we get as relates to irregular migration, likewise them, we share this information.
Have you been receiving them recently frequently?
Of course.
Okay.
As recent as mid last month, we were able to successfully prosecute 3 traffickers, and they were given a jail term of 15 years each. As we speak here today, I have somebody at our detention facility in Tanje also on the same act, and all the physical evidences were provided, because some of the would-be migrants, actually gave in bulls, for him to, and these are evidences that we're going to score the courts. So it's a serious problem affecting this country, and Gambia now is more or less being used as a launching pad. People will come from other West African countries, and then they will have their agents here, and then have their dealings with them, and then get a boat, I want to go to the Canary Islands.
P.S., the way the matter is going down with the issue of irregular migrants, is this something that the ministry feel that there could be more in terms of how resourced the department can be to make sure that they're very effective in just detecting this?
Yes, definitely. I can also give you an incident that happened some time ago. They intercepted a boat of would-be migrants. What actually happened, it was really tough on the side of immigration, at least to feed them. Normally when you intercept, in most cases you have other nationals, and you have to keep them within a day or two. Feeding them was a challenge, and they have to resort to their resources, at least to feed those migrants. As a ministry, definitely for us, I think that's also need to be addressed, and we are addressing those with partners, to discuss with them, that definitely they need help. It's not, the concentration should not be those being deported. Those also going out, they also need to be addressed. What I mean those going out, those intercepted before they at least either embark on their journey or at the middle of the ocean. Those are these things. And on the policy level also, I think maybe you will come to that. We work with the Ministry of Finance and other stakeholders in the NYS, that's the National Youth Council, and others, Red Cross, IOM, and we do at least discourse when there's any migrant coming, voluntary or otherwise, and we discuss the modalities, how are they coming, but the operational issues is handled by the yes.
What would be some of the biggest milestone achievements thereafter since around 2017 to where we are now that the ministry is so proud of?
Well, we coordinated certain deportations, not certain deportations, some of our migrants we repatriated, although actually it's to mention it. In the Mauritania case, when we have to sit down as a country with stakeholders, at least to facilitate or organize their repatriation back to the country. And I stand to be corrected, DG, you visited Mauritania and you visited the scene, which is very sorrowful, where some of our nationals were buried. And for us, the milestone is we are working with relevant stakeholder partners, and it's either to curb irregular migration, to make it more organized. And we are engaging partners, though it's going to be tough, but we are doing our utmost best to make sure this irregular migration, at least if it's not actually eradicated, but at least to a certain level, we can manage it in a way that at least it's not going to be as frequent as before. But having said that also, DG is telling now is other nationals are coming to use this country as a launch pad, which needs regular parole, vigorous parole, and resources to do that.
And in fact, that is not a small issue. It's in fact big. So let me just come to you, Director General, to tell us what exactly has been done in this. And he mentioned that the resources are not enough. Would you say so? What is your enough, or the unlimited, or the limited resources you have rather, able to cater for at this point in time?
We call it, judicious utilization of the meager resources that is available at our disposal. What we are doing, we are also having our partners that are supporting us, as alluded by my peers. As recent as this year, 2 pickup vehicles were given to us by our Spanish counterparts, the Guardia Civil, and we deployed one at Tanje that is doing the coastal patrol, and they took the other one at Bara for the North Bank region to cover that axis. So we are on this patrol. The patrols are not only border patrols, but we are also patrolling the coastline. and all this thing is paying dividend by way of trying to get these people before they embark on the voyage to go all out to the Canary Islands.
Are these some of the common crimes or immigration challenges we see in the sub-region? Just how you're going about detecting organized crimes and filtering it down to the other agencies as well?
Yes, we are doing this, and that's the synergy that I was talking about. Whatever information we get, sometimes we also get it from our sister services. Law enforcement establishment in this country, we complement the effort of each other. If it is something that is drug related, we pass it to drug law enforcement. But if it is an immigration matter also, they allow us to take the lead.
And your people, have they been really proactive in just taking on the immigration matters, especially at our borders? Excuse me.
Of course. And right now, we have a very sophisticated real-time information gathering system at our borders, our strategic borders, I mean.
Okay.
This is called Migrants Information Data Analysis System. It's real time, and it's state-of-the-art. We have it, at Amdalai, we have it at Farafenye, we have it at Jiboro, and very soon, we will go all out to Sabi in URL to go and inaugurate one there. This is something that attracts a funding envelope of $1 million donated to us, by the People's Republic of Japan.
Interesting achievement there. But before we go, this might not be a very interesting one because we understand that not few months ago, your new post at Gunjur got attacked. Tell us what has been the outcome of that inquiry there, and what could be the reason? Is there any gap for any compromise that anybody might think in such a case?
Right. One, we think they thought money was kept in the office, because we are a revenue generating institution, so they thought, and this happened at a time where it was peak collection time. It's the beginning of the year. That's when most of the Gambians will go to regularize their stay. So that may be one reason. But another reason is they were not too comfortable for the office to be located at that place, because few meters there is all kind of criminal activity ongoing at that place. Yeah. So that may also be another factor why they decide to attack the office.
And they successfully attacked and injured your officials.
Yes.
I mean, we're sorry about that. But would you say that the immigration department is very much, ready and just at the right state to be able to handle such unexpected occurrences?
No, that's why when I spoke with the Inspector General of Police, we strategized and we agreed that we should have at least a section of the paramilitary armed police, because immigration, we are not armed, and this is something that has to do with law. Law has to regulate some of these things. The laws that we are operating with, they are archaic, they are still obsolete. It's way back 1965, even though there are also plans in the offing for us to have a general repeal of the Immigration Act. Yeah.
And PS, of course, this is something that you welcome at the ministry as well?
Of course we do. There's something I miss in just the core of irregular migration. An assessment has been done, costed and everything, which we are sharing as we speak now with partners. If that is successful, we want to believe that definitely it will really help irregular migration. It's costly. It's been sent to partners for us at least to assist. That would at least make the job easier with all the, if that is successful.
When do you expect this to become successful?
Well, it depends on when the funding comes. Because when we receive the funding, or when we have funding from partners.
Okay, so you're not certain?
No, we are not certain, because these are you discuss with partners and then this is what we want to do.
Okay.
And this is the plans, this is what we have, these are the logistics we need, and it's going to be across all the coastal areas. Provide the resource or help with the resources that we can at least cope irregular migration through the backways or through our source.
Interesting. Before the DG takes his leave, we have very interesting comments here coming on social media, and we have this one from Hassan. He's saying that impressed with immigration department biomet. I think that's the biometric passport operations. This AM door opened 8 a.m. Head operations greeted, introduced himself and team, explained the process in English, Wolof, Mandinka. At the end, he asked if there were questions, had to share, because this is a rare public service. A comment. We also have another comment here. Says, I found the new biometric application process more thorough than the old one. A digitized system, due diligence process through interviews, etc. leaves little room for beating the system for non-qualified applicants, at least It appears so. I think that's something that is interesting to hear from the public, that they in fact appreciate this new approach and the fact that your officials are also being professional in their service. I hope you're motivating them enough.
Indeed. By way of giving them ranks, promoting them.
Paying for the training.
Yes, and they go for the,
training.
you know, all this way is way of complementing the ongoing security sector reform. Because when you look at SSR, it's in three folds. One is capacity building, two is infrastructural development, and then three is equipping those infrastructures. From 2018 to date, we were able to successfully build 6 immigration posts. You're talking of Kotu, you're talking of Bundung, you're talking of Dimbaya, you're talking of Umorto, you're talking of Gunjur, and then Kato.
Sabi is coming.
Yes, Sabi, and of course Sabi as well. That's seven stations. So, and then we were able also, the project also recognized equipping those ones, and then we are getting also a budget line from government which deals with furniture. Okay. So we buy this, you know, and equip the offices. But for capacity building, I have, you know, I think, you know, over 600, 700 officers were already trained on various immigration, you know, formalities.
That's interesting to know. But P.S., before we let you go, a very important part of this is the fire and rescue service. Yes. Just briefly, I have just one important question for them, and I just put it to you. When we visited these places across the regions, we realized that facilities, resources, even fire trucks were actually a very big problem for these people. The personnel, you could see that they needed much support, even training. How is that coming along?
Well, as I said before, if I tell you the priority, prison, fire service, obviously, they are also a priority.
Would you say that it's they are a priority?
They are a priority.
Okay, how then are you catering for them as well?
Well, this infrastructure, we are helping. And there's a budget line from government, because government is wholly and solely helping with infrastructure. There's no outside support to building. It's government doing. Do
you have the areas that you're doing this, the specific?
Yes. Recently, we renovated Churchillstown was there. Gunjur was renovated. Gunjur, Sanyang was renovated. Tanje also was renovated. As we speak now, Baja Kunda is the work is ongoing. It's just one or two things so that at least they could move there. It's a fully fledged fire station, and then we are doing what we can.
So you are aware that there are challenges ranging from the personnel and the facilities.
Yes.
And then you want to make sure that you're very proactive in doing this at a very prompt pace.
This is the reason why, as a government or as a ministry, we do complement some of their efforts. We do use our own resources, because they also...
But that is not sustainable, using the resources of the ministry to run that affairs.
No, what we are saying, now and again we do help. Yes, they have their own resources, but for us we complement some of them. We complement some of the activities.
But you're aware that this is not sustainable in the very long term, or in fact in the short term.
As a government, if we don't have partners coming to help to build infrastructures, we have to do it as a government, as a ministry. In terms of equipment, we are receiving help. We know that it's not sustainable, at least to receive help from partners. This is the reason why the approach we are using as a ministry, with the support of the government, is at least let us try buy our own fire tenders. If it is one or two, it's costly. But we, as a government, we will try to buy our own fire tender, because we cannot rely on partners to be helping us. As Uraili pointed out, the conditions are not there, maybe in terms of, maybe, I don't know, motivation or whatever. But that is the reason why, as a government, and as a ministry, we prioritize fire service, the activities and everything as a government, and as a minister and also as a government. The DG will tell you we attend so many meetings at the highest level. The chief fire officer will tell you attended so many meetings at the highest level. He's been invited at the highest level, at least, to highlight his challenge and all those things. It's been looked into, and I am confident that it would be addressed by government.
Very well.
That's what I can honestly tell you, with the support of the ministry.
Well, we're happy to hear that as well, that you're very much keen on doing exactly that. And perhaps when we have the finance ministry here, we'll also look at how they're not going to depend solely on the partners, but just making sure that they're very much proactive in getting the right funds. But P.S., it's been great talking to you. And just before we wrap it up, just tell us, where are we headed and what is the focus for the next few years to come?
Well, it's good what we will do is we will set the foundation. We will come with the programs and the activities. Those who will come in with at least either move on with the programs. We are coming to programs. We are coming with activities. I mean, whether they would at least still stand the test of time, but that's what we will do. Even when we move out, or whoever comes would at least carry on the programs and activities. What we have dynamic service chiefs who are there, who are coming with programs. We are coming to program. They are coming. We work as a team and arrive at the common position and have our programs. And he mentioned the training. Imagine training about 600 people. Even when you leave them on safe hands.
They're sustainable.
They're sustainable. The same applies to the police. It was you didn't ask, maybe because of time. Police also will tell you the number of officers they train. Fire and rescue service also will tell you the same. Prison also will tell you the same. Those are things that we sustain all the services under the ministry. That is for tomorrow. Yes. Compared to yesterday, it's where there was no training, there was no graduates here and there, but now
what would you say?
Yeah, but now, I mean, you have graduates joined in the service or been trained in the service to be graduates or postgraduates. When he can, there's no time for him, but he can honestly tell you how many officers up to nowhere, up to now, they are lawyers.
Is it?
Yes.
That's something you're proud of as a ministry?
Yes, and we are trained up to, we have doctors.
Absolutely.
Doctors in the police service.
Very well.
Yes, we have doctors in police service. They trained by the police.
Interesting, PS.
Those are, it's part of the reform.
Very well.
We don't have to rely on anyone. I mean, and those guys, honestly, you can, sometimes they are used by the health services. Not in most of the time, most of the doctors. He also would embark on that one because normally they have an area that deals with health and all those things. I mean, he would also embark on that one, just like the fire service. These are the trends and the reform we need. As he rightly pointed out, the components, you have the infrastructure and the training and also the equipment they're using. And that's what we are doing as a ministry, support from government and partners. That's what we are doing.
I'm glad that you said it's all part of the reform because that's exactly why we're here to talk about the plan for this period we've had so far. And we are in fact to the end of 2021. It's good to take stock of that. DG, it's been great having you as well. Join us here.
Thank you.
Very well. Well, that was the Permanent Secretary at the Ministry of the Interior, Mr. Asan Tangara, is with us here with an entire entourage from his different line departments, prisons, immigration, police, the drug law enforcement, as well as the fire service. Unfortunately, this is where we'll be drawing today's curtains at. I remain your Atu Eli Kamaloshi. This program is brought to you by the UNDP, and we'll be back again next week with another ministry looking at their development agenda in line with the National Development Plan 2018-2021. Till then, enjoy the rest of our programs.
Thank you.